Prior to 1993, the last time the Chesterfield Valley flooded was in 1935. And back then, this area was known as the Gumbo Flats. So you can imagine, in 1993, for the people who worked and lived in these 4,500 acres, the thought of an emergency evacuation wasn't even on the radar screen. It was something no one thought would ever happen. Then the unthinkable occurred. On July 30th, 1993, in the darkness of night, the strain of holding back the swollen Missouri River, which was more than 19 feet above flood stage, finally took its toll on the Chesterfield Monarch levee along Etherton Road. At about 10:15 p.m., the levee, which was supposed to last 100 years, broke. A 5-foot-high wall of water smashed through a 20 to 30-foot gap in the levee. By morning, most of the 258 businesses and homes in the Chesterfield Valley were submerged in 7 to 8 feet of murky, debris-laden floodwater. Highway 40 from Chesterfield Parkway to the Daniel Boone Bridge had to be shut down due to deep water over the roadway. Although city officials did announce a voluntary evacuation 10 hours prior to the levee breach, the incident still caught a lot of people by surprise and left them discouraged.
I was at Lake of the Ozarks for a weekend when the flood occurred. I got a call from Tom Shaw at about 1 o'clock, I think, in the morning, saying, well, it broke through, Kent, and it's in 8 or 10 hours, water will be up 7 or 8 feet, they were saying. And I owned one building in the valley at that time, an office warehouse building, multi-tenant, about 38,000 square feet. And I thought, man, I've just lost a lot of money. I thought my investment there was gone forever.
Not only did the levee break swamp a St. Louis County water plant and a sewage treatment facility, the Spirit of St. Louis Airport, also owned and operated by St. Louis County, suffered moderate damage. The airport remained out of business until October 1st, which caused hardships for people who lost jobs and for area companies that lost revenues, because their livelihoods depended on Spirit, which at the time was the second busiest airport in a 4-state central region of the U.S.
Spirit of St. Louis Airport's going to be back better than ever. You have my word on it.
Dramatic changes have taken place in Chesterfield Valley over the past 10 years, and it's back, better than ever. Hrabko says the Spirit of St. Louis Airport is better off than ever before, logging more than 200,000 flights a year. The Valley's amazing recovery from the Great Flood of '93 happened because of a spirit of partnership and cooperation that formed between City of Chesterfield officials, area business leaders, the Chamber of Commerce, the CCDC, and local residents. Putting the Valley on a fast track of rapid development became a top priority. One of the key organizations spearheading efforts to restore and expand development in the Valley was the Chesterfield Valley Coalition, a local business membership organization formerly known as the Chesterfield Valley 2000 Coalition and a successor to the original Phoenix Forum. Organized in October 1993, the coalition set out to promote policies that would ensure the rebuilding, safety, and future growth of Chesterfield Valley. It addressed major issues, such as the recertification of the Monarch Chesterfield levee at the 100-year level, construction of a new 500-year levee for better flood protection, improvements to the Valley's infrastructure, and economic development incentives to promote job growth. This organization was instrumental in getting federal flood relief assistance and cooperation from insurance companies. By January 1st, 1994, the Valley's assessed valuation plummeted to $18.5 million, a 25% decrease that crippled local taxing districts. Business retention was of crucial importance to the Valley's survival.
Right after the flood, many of the businesses had naturally to vacate and find other locations. And the Chamber and the Community Development Corporation and the city officials did everything they could to encourage the businesses not to sign long-term leases, because from the very beginning, everyone felt that we were coming back, that we were not totally shut down. And then the recovery process started, I think, when Highway 40, I-64 remained unscathed. There wasn't a piece of concrete out of place. And unlike Highway I-63, Highway 63 up in Jefferson City that was just crumbled, we did not have that problem. So right away our interstate was opened up. And I think that was kind of the turning point where everyone had the positive, hey, we are going to be okay and we are going to come back.
Many Valley business owners had pledged not to return unless the area had better flood protection and they could get adequate flood insurance. John Langa, Chesterfield Community Development Corporation's executive director at the time, recognized the importance of building a larger 500-year levee to keep businesses in the valley and to attract new ones in the future. So he worked with city officials, the Chamber of Commerce, the Levee District, and Valley 2000 Coalition in establishing a Chesterfield Valley TIF district.
One of the CCDC's key roles in rebuilding the valley after the flood of '93 was not only working with the city and the Levee District, long-term with THF Realty, St. Louis County, but most importantly with the mid-market companies that were in Chesterfield Valley. Pre-flood, there were about 240 businesses. 160 of those came back. They were small companies, regional companies, mom-and-pop companies, national companies. They were all important. And for those companies, one of the key things that we did was ask what they needed to come back, what they needed to grow. And for those companies, a lot of their day-in, day-out needs were making sure they were keeping their employees going, making sure they were working with their vendors, their suppliers, etc. So for us, anything those guys needed was critical. As the valley emerged over time, those guys became the backbone of what went right in Chesterfield Valley.
Chesterfield Valley is a classic example of an appropriate use of tax increment financing, where the tax increment financing is used for infrastructure improvements to the valley that enables the 500-year levee to be constructed, all of the other infrastructure improvements to be made. The redevelopment of Chesterfield Valley has had a lot of positive impacts on Rockwood. 10 years ago, I think there might have been some concerns with the creation of the TIF. I think now with 10 years of history, we can see the great benefits that this TIF has produced. You can see all the development that's occurred down in the valley. And from a financial perspective, that has provided Rockwood with an increase of about $1 million annually in personal property tax revenue.
The valley today has been extremely successful, and I think that it's successful financially. It's producing a lot of taxes. And it's still got a lot of growth in the near future. And I think that the tax base that it has provided will really be very important for the school districts and other taxing industries.
Another major turning point in the Valley's success story was when the Chamber started pushing for large-scale retail development.
The role that the Chamber played after the flood was going to City Hall and encouraging the city officials to allow large-scale retail development to be in Chesterfield Valley. We didn't have a place for the huge box centers, and definitely the city officials did not want it up here on Clarkson Road. And the Valley was the ideal place to begin that type of development.
The Chamber's efforts paid off when THF Realty got its zoning in November of 1998 to build Chesterfield Commons, a 1.2 million square foot mega retail complex that has become one of the largest power centers in the United States. It represents the biggest investment made in the Valley since the creation of the Chesterfield Valley TIF District back in 1994. Anchored by 4 large retailers, Sam's Club, Walmart, Target, and Lowe's Home Improvement Warehouse, this commercial development will feature 800,000 square feet of office, restaurant, entertainment, and industrial space, bringing the size of the project to 2 million square feet. On any given weekend in Chesterfield Valley, it's not unusual to see thousands of automobiles of all sizes, shapes, and license plates sitting in the parking lots along Chesterfield Airport Road at the Chesterfield Commons.
As developers that do not sell property, we want this to be a long-term investment. And you know, some people that should be given credit is Lou Sachs for asking me to go to the Valley, because he wouldn't sell any land by the mall to put a development like this. He said, go to the Valley. That's really where this should go.
Chesterfield Commons, when completed, will generate $5 million in annual property taxes and $3 million in annual sales taxes. The boom in retail sales has allowed the city of Chesterfield to pay off the public infrastructure bonds faster, shortening the life of the $30 million worth of TIF bonds from 15 to 7 years.
The TIF district has allowed several things. First of all, it has allowed developments such as Chesterfield Commons to take place. These TIF dollars have really gone for public infrastructure in the Chesterfield Valley area, only for public infrastructure, different than most TIFs throughout the St. Louis area.
Many people living in the Chesterfield area believe that the addition of the Chesterfield Commons has improved their quality of life by providing convenience.
We have it all. I mean, We don't have to go over on Manchester Road anymore. If you need a restaurant, you can go to Chesterfield Valley. And another thing we have is the sports. You know, we have the golf, we have the ice rink, we have soccer, we have baseball, we have softball, and all those are amenities that not every community is very fortunate to have.
Like a rising tide that raises all boats, the economic growth and prosperity of Chesterfield Valley and the city of Chesterfield in general is having a positive ripple effect on the St. Louis economy. It's attracting new high-tech firms and promoting company expansion, which in turn creates job growth and increases the amount of disposable income local workers have to spend.
It's helped the entire region. The reason for that is employment, creating of jobs. People come from St. Charles County, they come from South St. Louis, comes from North St. Louis, comes from West County. For people who work in the valley for different walks of life, different type of services. It's a large employment center. I think today we probably have about 7,000 people employed in the valley at the present time. I say 10 years now we'll have about 13,000 to 14,000 people employed in the valley.
Today, Chesterfield Valley is a major economic engine powering the region's growth. Its assessed value has skyrocketed from less than $25 million in 1993 to $88,800,000 at the end of fiscal year 2002. The number of local businesses has jumped from 240 in 1993 to 485 in May of 2003. As for commercial expansion, the square footage of development has gone through the roof to 7 million feet within a 10-year period. The total number of full-time employees working in the valley has grown from 4,400 back in 1993 to over 8,100 today.
Chesterfield has taken a regional approach to solving problems here locally, and it's important that Chesterfield is a leader not only here in the city, but also in the region and, for that matter, in the state. We'll look to provide expertise in a variety of areas. In the valley alone, you'll see jobs ranging from, we have Don Wiegand Studios, which is one of the cultural meccas for the state, not to mention one of the largest retail centers in the United States. And it just shows a variety of different interests that are down there. And it's everyone working together as a team, and that's what the Chesterfield Valley is about, and that's what the city really strives on in economic development.
What I see Chesterfield doing is answering all the needs of all those individuals within their community. The spectrum of activities that they have and events that they have within the city of Chesterfield is just astronomical, and it's a very cultural community.
I think that it's a funny thing how something like this flood can affect so many lives, but I know in my case, in a strange sort of way, as hard as it was, I don't really regret it. I liked the way everybody came and pooled together and worked. I think I liked how it banded people together. It was similar on obviously a much larger scale, 9/11, when we felt how everybody would really band together emotionally, spiritually, physically to help each other after that tragedy that happened on our country. In a small sort of way, the same effect happened to us in our Chesterfield location, that people really did help each other. And I think that was a very important part in the memory of it.
Wiegand was able to find a silver lining in his flood experience because it opened a door of opportunity for his nonprofit organization to create the Bob Hope Medal of Freedom Award, commissioned by the USO and the Department of Defense. Don's masterpieces are putting Chesterfield on the map among influential art connoisseurs around the world.
I look forward to a great future for the city of Chesterfield. For more than 200 years, people have been flocking to these beautiful rolling hills surrounding the Missouri River to pursue a quality of life unsurpassed in the United States. I assure you, it's my commitment, it's the commitment of the City Council, and it's the commitment of the people of Chesterfield that our best days are ahead of us. Thanks to all of you who work so hard to make Chesterfield the great community that it is. It is because of you that Chesterfield is truly the city of volunteers, and it is because of you that the future of Chesterfield is so very bright.
As a journalist, the Great Flood of 1993 was a tremendous event, a once-in-a-lifetime story. As a resident of Chesterfield, it's nice to know that through the hard work and efforts of groups like the Valley Coalition, it'll never happen again.
He keeps on rolling.